Hello everyone. Today is 24th of October 2024. Now it's 8:30 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media and Russian language pages on different platforms for this moment. Later on today, towards the evening, I will publish my second news update or final news update for a day on my Patreon and Boosty pages. And if you are looking for more news from Russia, you're more than welcome to join our communities on these platforms. Links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. I will just notice that to have access to news updates, you have to be Patreon or paid subscriber because this is, as I mentioned many times, completely subscriber funded project and completely relies on your support. That's being said, dear friends, let me also notice that if you can, please click that like button and leave some commentary while watching or listening to this update, because as you probably notice, algorithms are going crazy, especially nowadays, and closer presidential elections in US, probably algorithms will go even crazier, and their channels that are not going hand to hand with the Western propaganda are being smashed. My channel included, which is already in shadow ban. So therefore, I'm not that surprised, but still, it is heartbreaking that you are trying to make an informative program. You are spending time on research, on preparation of the program, on recording and uploading, and then a community are not receiving notifications from platform about update. Unfortunate, but that's the reality that we are dealing with. So therefore, if you can, please click that like button and leave some commentary. Maybe that will help to deal with these artificial obstacles that this sickening algorithm of YouTube is creating. Sometimes I'm getting so mad on this whole situation that I'm thinking to stop making videos on YouTube and completely focused on Rumble and Patreon and Boosty. But because many members of our bigger community on YouTube, for whatever reason, are refusing to subscribe to my Rumble channel, I feel obligated to continue making these videos on YouTube also. Anyways, let's go through some news, dear friends. And as I said, there are quite a lot of very important developments are happening. And first of all, short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. Yesterday afternoon, Russian media reported, based on latest updates of the Defense Ministry, that Russian armed forces established full control over the Serebryanka and Nikolaevka settlements. Many of you probably already informed about this significant progress of the Russian armed forces in DPR. This is Nikolaevka settlement on the southeastern outskirts of Mirnograd city, which is part of this agglomeration, Pokrovsk-Mirnograd. Obviously, important development. And when it comes to Serebryanka, this town is located on the northern side of Seversk. So this is Seversk city, and this is Serebryanka settlement. This information came as a surprise for many, but Russian Defense Ministry is confirming that Serebryanka is under Russian control, and most likely Grigorievka settlement also. And today or tomorrow probably will receive a confirmation from Defense Ministry that Russian troops established control over the Grigorievka too. So Russian forces continue their offensive local-scale offensive operations, not just in Seversk direction, but their main actions are basically taking place in South Donetsk and Pokrovsk sectors of the front line. When it comes to South Donetsk sector, Russian troops are getting closer and closer to Bogoyavlenka settlement. Right now, forward units of the Russian troops are just about kilometers away from Bogoyavlenka, and I'm quite sure Russian DRGs are already operating inside this village. Quite important village at this point, because once Russian troops will establish control over the Bogoyavlenka and Novoukrainka, these are settlements that are located on the northern western side of Ugledar. As you can take a look, as you can see, dear friends, operational space is opening, and there are not that many defensive lines that Kiev regime has after these two settlements. Also, Russian troops further advancing in Kurakhova direction, and there are several streets in Kurakhova itself already are under Russian control. Also, southern flanks of Pokrovsk sector, some very significant developments happening here. For example, Izmailovka settlement, this one, on the western outskirts of Garnyak, bigger town, is under full Russian control. And if you take a look, dear friends, you can clearly see that Garnyak and Kurakhovka settlements are basically in operational encirclement. And I doubt that Kiev regime's forces in these areas will have a safe passage to run away, even if they will decide to. Also, reports are coming in that about 50% of Garnyak is already under Russian control, and Russian troops also are conducting clearing operation in Kurachovka. But this is not all. Russian troops also advancing in Selidovo area. And yesterday I reported on my Telegram channel that Russian troops raised Russian flag in the central part of Selidovo. So it seems like Kiev regime's formations are step by step, but withdrawing from Selidra and trying to run away. All the supply and support lines are under Russian fire control, so therefore this withdrawal from Selidra not gonna be easy task for Kiev regime's formations, and there are some of the units will most likely be trapped in Selidra and will have only two choices: die for a geopolitical agenda of their Western ruling class, or to lay down arms and surrender. Probably before end of this week, Selidovo will become under full Russian control. And if you take in account also Russian progress in Pokrovsk, Mirnograd vicinity, one may get impression that Turkey regime's defense lines are collapsing once again on southern and on a Southernetsk sector and the Pokrovsk sectors of the front. I clearly have such an impression, because it seems like Kiev regime's formations are simply unable to hold on to their positions whenever Russian side is increasing pressure. Also, dear friends, some somewhat surprising news is coming from Chisovyar. According to some reports, Russian troops, as a result of some lightning strikes, establish their positions in central parts of Chisovyar, and now fight between the sides are taking place in the western and southern western outskirts of this city. Obviously, more information is needed, because as I said, this is somewhat surprising, because a couple of days ago, for the last several days, we were not really receiving much information about some crucial changes in this direction. And yesterday, some sources report that Russian troops already are in control of central parts of Chisovyar, which is obviously big deal. I already mentioned about Russian progress in Serebryanka area, which is Seversk direction. Also, Russian troops improving their positions in Liman direction and the Kupiansk direction. I reported a few days ago that Russian troops established control over the Novosadovaya, and now Russian troops are conducting local-scale offensive operations, and in Terny and Yampolovka area, points of concentration of the Kiev regime troops in these settlements are under heavy bombardment, under constant strikes, and I doubt that Kiev regime's formations will be able to hold on to these settlements for a long time. And also, by the way, Kiev regime's formations are under heavy pressure, in Kupiansk, on southern sectors of the Kupiansk direction, on southern flank of Kupiansk direction. As you can see, these icons, by the way, almost in every single settlement, points of concentrations of the Kiev regime forces are constantly targeted by Russian long-range artillery, by Russian MLRS systems, and Russian Air Force. No reports about some crucial changes in this buffer zone on the northern part of Kharkov region in Lipsy, Volchansk areas. And when it comes to Kursk salient, Russian counter-terrorist operation continues, and this Kursk salient is shrinking and shrinking as time goes by. More videos are appearing on internet about chaotic withdrawal of the Kiev regime's formations from the northern parts of Kursk salient. Yesterday I saw a video of at least several platoons of the Kiev regime forces were running away from, I believe this was, I cannot remember the settlement that they were running from, but it was northern part of this Kursk salient, and they were running through fields. By the way, Russian drones were seeing this withdrawal, and obviously MLRS systems, artillery, drones were called in, and I doubt that very many members of those retreating platoons of the Kiev regime managed to survive. Best they can do, really, best they can do on all sectors of the front line and also in the Kursk salient is to lay down arms and surrender if they want to save their lives, or if they don't want to die for geopolitical agenda of the Western ruling class, those psychopaths. And this is it when it comes to a short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. There are significant progress of the Russian armed forces in South Donetsk sector of the front line, in Pokrovsk sector of the front line. Selidovo is obviously Pokrovsk sector, Garnyaka, Kurachovka. Significant progress in Kurakhov direction, also in Seversk direction. So, well, Kiev regime's forces definitely are collapsing, at least on several directions, I will argue. That being said, let's go through some more news now. And RIA Novosti is reporting exactly about Serebryanka and Nikolaevka settlements that were liberated by Russian forces. Vzгляд newspapers report that Germany has decided to no longer pay Ukrainian refugees 563 euros, and they will receive now from German government aid on the same way that other refugees from other countries are receiving, which is going to be 460 euros. I wouldn't say like huge difference, 563, 460. Okay, whatever. But this information may be seen as an indicator that EU member states are strengthening some strengthening the conditions under which refugees from Ukraine are in EU territory. And in my opinion, this is done to force at least some of them, especially military age or conscripting age males, to go back to Ukraine, which is not going to work. This approach will not work. Obviously, Ukrainian refugees will find a way to stay out of Ukraine. Or and by the way, I also read some news that Polish leadership is calling for Germany to uh, completely stop issuing any financial support for Ukrainian refugees. I don't know if that report that I saw on one of the Russian Telegram channels is 100% correct, but I'm not gonna be surprised either if it is the case and Polish leadership is calling Germany and possibly other countries in EU to minimize financial support for Ukrainian refugees, to force them basically to go back to Ukraine, to go back to control territory, and then get forcefully mobilized and sacrificed for geopolitical agenda of the West. RIA Novosti is reporting that, well, Russian embassy in US commented on decision of Washington to transfer some $20 billion to Kiev regime as a loan under guarantees of profits of frozen Russian assets. And Russian embassy called this decision of Washington a state-level theft, which is correct. That's what Biden's administration is doing. Basically, they are stealing Russian assets, and same is done by EU, by the way, EU member states. So no surprises. There are no surprises there. We can call it whatever we want, but obviously it is stealing, right? It's not US money, it's not European money, it's Russian assets, right? And they cannot touch it, but they will. They're gonna steal it, and obviously, world community will have additional reasoning to stay out of Western economies and Western financial and banking system. The newspaper is reporting that according to Wall Street Journal, North Korea sent 1,500 members of its special forces to Russia for training purposes. And these North Korean troops will undergo, first of all, training in operations with the drones. Okay. Overall, according to Wall Street Journal, North Korea plans to deploy to Russia some 12,000 military personnel. This topic of North Korean troops are still being, pushed around in Western propaganda. They want, for whatever reason, they want these rumors to be true about North Korean troops going in Russia to participate in hostilities in the zone of special military operation, which is absurd, by the way, which is total nonsense, right? Why would Russia need 15,000 troops from North Korea? I mean, or 12,000. And I spoke about this topic in my updates on Patreon, on my updates on YouTube and Rumble. You know my take on the situation. This is the total crap, right? Nowadays, you cannot take seriously anything that comes out from the collective West, any information, because most likely it is false, not true. But anyway, because big names in Western propaganda, like Wall Street Journal, is writing about it, I'm sharing this news with you. So if you ask me, in no circumstances, North Korean or troops of any other country will participate in battles in a zone of special military operation or in the Kursk salient, by the way. Russia don't needs that. If it was like million soldiers or 2 million or 3 million, okay, that will make difference, right? But 10, 15,000. By the way, I remind you that Russian armed forces every 10 to 15 days have 10 to 1,500 new recruits, right? Every single day, about 1,000 or 1,500 citizens of Russia are signing contracts with the Russian Defense Ministry. So what 15,000? Western propaganda is trying to create this narrative that I mean huger forces of the North Korea and Russia to do this and that, while they are not sharing information that for zone of special military operation, 10, 15,000 military personnel is not that many. And they're definitely, and Western propaganda definitely is not sharing information that Russian armed forces almost every single week have applications to join the army from 10 to 15,000 citizens of Russia, right? So, anyways, by the way, simultaneously, I would not be surprised at all if North Korean, Chinese, Indian, or troops from any other friendly nation towards Russia are in Russia, officers and maybe some members of the special forces to gain some experience, to learn from Russian colleagues some modern tactics of the warfare, because obviously Russian troops now are one of the most experienced troops or the most experienced troops in this world when it comes to high intensity modern warfare, right? So it is understandable that a significant number of militaries worldwide would like to have a like to learn some uh, about some experience that Russian troops have now to enhance their own battle capabilities. So maybe there are number of units of North Korean troops in Russia and they are undergoing some training and stuff, which is okay. I mean, it's not a big deal, isn't it? It's not a big deal. Anyways, dear friends, I have this report also to share, which is that according to RT, Pentagon explains refusal to change missile rules for Ukraine. The US should stick to its longer-standing policy of not allowing Ukraine launch long-range strikes deep into Russia, as there are no longer any valid military targets within range. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has said in an interview with the Fox News released on Tuesday. Austin was asked why administration of the Biden consistently rejects Vladimir Zelensky's request to lift their restrictions on firing ATACMS missiles, which have a range of about 300 kilometers at the targets on Russian soil. Austin explained that the Russians have already moved their aircrafts beyond the range of ATACMS. He added that Ukraine is now capable of producing its own drones, which can strike targets at the range of 400 kilometers or more. So Washington is, despite some expectations, or at least from some experts, Washington is not willing to lift this restriction on NATO troops, not on Ukraine, but on NATO troops, to conduct long-range strikes deep inside the Russian territory. Although Lloyd Austin, obviously being a puppet of the Western ruling class, is pushing their narrative that this topic is about allowing Kyiv regime to conduct such strikes, when we know perfectly well, and the Russian leadership was very clear on topic, also that Kyiv regime in no circumstances be able to conduct such long-range strikes with their Western weapons because they have no means for that. They have no satellite navigation, they have no satellite intelligence, and many other things, expertise after all, right? To conduct such operations. And the Russian president was very clear that if such strikes will take place, that we will see it as a direct attack on Russia by NATO member states, because that's what it will be, right? And Russia will retaliate accordingly. And I guess these messages from Russia also about not just about this topic, but also about upcoming changes in Russian nuclear doctrine that were already finalized, and I guess in upcoming days, Russian president will or some other high-ranking official will announce that Russian nuclear doctrine being updated. So that information on nuclear doctrine and also about these long-range strikes obviously reach, as far as I understand, its addressate in the collective West, and Lloyd Austin and some other officials, they are no longer obsessed with this topic of long-range strikes deep inside Russian territory. Although, by the way, he mentioned the drones that Kyiv regime is launching every other day in significant numbers to strike deep into Russian territory, and this is true. I'm reporting on these uh, strikes regularly, and one should notice that Kyiv regime cannot conduct such strikes with the drones also without NATO support, right? Because it's NATO countries, mainly US and UK, that are providing flight path, targeting data, and some other intelligence information that are then put in a program of these drones to be launched and to fly towards their targets. And if you remember, when the Russian president was talking about changes in nuclear doctrine, he also stated that any strikes on the Russian territory with long-range means, including drones, by any non-nuclear country, although with active support of nuclear country, will be seen by Moscow as a reasoning to deploy nuclear weapons. So therefore, once announcement will be made that Russian doctrine, nuclear doctrine, have been updated, probably these long-range drone strikes on Russian territory will also die down because Washington probably would not risk to be on receiving end of nuclear fire, and therefore they will stop providing Kyiv regime with flight path targeting data and so on. Let's see. Let's see. It's only a matter of days at this point, and probably we will hear about updates that was done in nuclear doctrine. And dear friends, you know what? I will divide today's first update in several parts to make sure that these videos are short enough, and because there are plenty of news, dear friends. I mean, if you take a look at the top of your screen, you can see all these windows that I open, and every single one of them is news that I want to share. So in next part, I will talk about latest informations about the Brics summit in Kazan, and maybe some other topics also. But this first part, is finished on that. Hopefully, you will find it informative, interesting, and useful. And if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary, and share information about my channel with your friends in real life or on internet. Maybe that will help reach wider audience. And finally, if you like my work, if you want to support independent media project, uh, please consider to support with donations or by subscribing to my Patreon and Boosty pages. Links are on this video description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care. If you are not going to watch my other updates, but if you do, then see you later.